Aikido has been in a wave of controversy for years now. Even the once considered god of Aikido in popular culture is now being washed away in the mud. But what has happened to this art's once former glory? Where did it all go so wrong? Morihei Shiba, also known as O-sensei, the great teacher, born in 1883, during his life has become a master of a classical jiu-jitsu style of Aikido-jutsu, a form of kenjutsu, Japanese swordsmanship, and jo-jutsu, the art of the combat staff. He was also a devotee of various spiritual practices, spending a big part of his life in meditation and studies of sacred texts. With years of experience, he has come to connect all of his knowledge into a martial art that he called Aikido. Aikido was so highly respected that for a certain period of time, only people who had a recommendation were allowed to practice it. Many famous martial artists from entire Japan came to train with Ueshiba and had a lot of respect for him. Yet these days, Aikido is looked with a lot of skepticism by fellow martial artists, most notably by that of MMA and BJJ, although not excluding many others. But in order to realize where this has started, we will have to take a better look at the past. Traditional jiu-jitsu was created and developed in Japan by the samurai, mainly to defend against armored and potentially armed opponents in the battlefield or in other places. Yet after the Meiji Restoration in 1868, which ended the samurai class, completely changed people's relationship to martial arts. Various martial arts, including jiu-jitsu, have started to be considered unfashionable and had little interest to people. Also, with the changing times, most of the jiu-jitsu masters started to conclude that their art has become impractical and thus stopped their practices entirely. Yet Jigoro Kano, born 1860, being bullied in his childhood, decided to learn jiu-jitsu nevertheless. After a long and difficult search for a teacher who would still be willing to teach, he eventually not only came to learn the art himself, but also became a master of it. Yet he did not stop there. With jiu-jitsu still being unpopular and not accepted by the general public, Sensei Kano decided to not only change some of the techniques, but also to rediscover its emphases and philosophy, which suited more the modern day. Thus, Judo was born, a martial art that was more adapted to the current time. Judo has become increasingly popular and its practitioners constantly won in contests against other styles of jiu-jitsu, thus proving its superiority. Hearing all the talks about it, Mitsuya Maeda, born 1878, became interested in the art and started practicing in his early years. He ended up studying with Jigoro Kano's senior students with the supervision of the judo founder himself. As judo became known in the United States, it was decided to send more judokas there from Japan to promote the art. Maeda took the opportunity. He traveled around the whole West, not only teaching but also constantly participating in various demonstrations and contests. In 1914, he first visited Brazil, where he engaged in his judo activity and became well known. While in Brazil, in 1917, he met Carlos Gracie, who soon became his student and ended up learning from Maeda for a few years. Carlos, having learned judo, also back then known as Kano Jiu-Jitsu, later on continued to pass his knowledge to his other Gracie brothers. Amidst his brothers, the most notable one was Helio Gracie. Born 1913, Helio was a frail child. Thus, he wasn't able to perform many of the techniques himself due to the lack of physique and other health issues. This in turn led him to modify and improve what he was taught. Continuing to improve what they have learned, Carlos and Helio's Jiu-Jitsu has become so effective that they decided to start hosting an event which was already popular in Brazil, known as Vale Tudo, a full-contact, unarmed combat event with limited set of rules, where the Gracie brothers would compete against other styles of combat. Here, the Gracies were actually able to defeat most of the opponents. When the Gracies went to the United States to further promote their style, they started referring to their style as the Gracie or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to differentiate from other names. They kept constantly improving their style and proving its effectiveness against various fighters, which also supported their technical growth. Thus, the roots were born of such a well-known martial art these days, which we often simply call now by the abbreviation of BJJ. With tournaments of various martial arts becoming increasingly popular, various martial arts had started to be blended together. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu had also a big influence in this mix, since in 1993, the first Ultimate Fighting Championship, also known as F.S.C, was hosted, where Royce Gracie, the son and student of Helio Gracie, won the tournament, thus leading to a realization that BJJ has to be included in the practice of what has become known as mixed martial arts or MMA. With the popularity of MMA and its various tournaments rising, the development of the blend of various martial arts continued. This blend, as much as BJJ, focused on eliminating everything that is not necessary and increasing the efficiency of a fighter in a tournament, leaving only whatever is most practical. In In other words, practicality and efficiency has become the basis of modern martial arts. Yet here we reach the point where we come back to Aikido. With its deep philosophical roots, Morihei Ueshiba did not approve any competition. He stated that Aikido is meant for reconciling conflict and the betterment of the individual rather than deciding who is more efficient. Thus, Aikido was never exposed to an urge of needing to improve its techniques in order to perform better in tournaments, or was never continuously forced to look at its lacks. Also, ironically enough, despite that O-sensei kept improving and changing his art, many of the Aikido instructors refused to change Aikido on a fundamental level, trying to honor the founder in this way. Even some main Aikido teachers, such as Sensei Morihiro Saito, went so far as to make it his primary goal to preserve the art exactly as it is. While this corresponds to the cultural values of Japan, to preserve and honor the past, this phenomena has been transmitted to the West as well, with many instructors refusing to make any substantial changes to the art, thus leaving Aikido with the same form, techniques, and presentation with only minor changes. Not having any exposure to competition and being preserved by its instructors, Aikido has become static, while BJJ and MMA has continued to constantly improve, thus eventually starting to give controversy to the Aikido art as to if it has any practical use at all. There had been some attempts to make Aikido more efficient, for example such as the so-called real Aikido created by a Serbian man named Ljubomir Vracharevic. Real Aikido is based on Aikido techniques with the attempt to modify them in a more efficient and practical way. Yet while it maintains a similar external shell to Aikido that was founded by Ueshiba, it does not touch upon the original philosophy or spirit that the founder felt are absolutely necessary in this art, which brings us to the second wall that Aikido is facing. Many of Aikido instructors, including the top students of Ueshiba, were so focused on the technical side of Aikido that most of them neglected the spiritual side almost entirely, which again brings us to the ironical fact. For Ueshiba, the spirituality and Aikido were inseparable. He even went so far as to saying that these techniques are only for health. What Aikido is about is spiritual. Yet even these days, so many instructors are focused on trying to prove Aikido's liability as a martial art, or try to preserve it so much that the spiritual side of it becomes left out. While even senior instructors and many Aikidokas are facing this conflict, not being clear on what Aikido is or where it should go, the art is left with so much controversy and space for criticism. Yet what if we would change this? Sensei Morihei Ueshiba saw Aikido as a tool to reconcile the world and to help individuals improve not only their physique, but most importantly their character. For him, technique was just a platform upon which he could share his message, that true victory is the victory against oneself. The world already has plenty of effective martial arts, yet it is still missing an effective way to reconcile it. O-sensei saw that, and that is the reason he created a different martial art and not a continuation of Jiu-Jitsu. If O-sensei wasn't concerned about proving Aikido against other martial arts, and he wasn't concerned about the importance of technique, why are we? As long as we will put Aikido in the same box as BJJ or MMA, it will never become as popular. Even if we would modify it and adapt its techniques, yet we would lose the essence of it, what would the use of Aikido be? I say, let's stop comparing football to chess. Let's respect them, appreciate, and benefit from what they are. Aikido can be a unique tool to make a difference in people's lives and that of the world. It does not deny the chance to improve it, make it better, and adapt it to this day. Actually, it needs that. But just changing the technique will never be enough. As long as we will continue to put it into an existential competition to other martial arts, we will never have the space to reveal Aikido's true message and purpose, and it will never have the popularity that it deserves. I say, let's stop fighting against other martial arts, trying to prove something against them. Let's stop trying to preserve the external shell of Aikido. Let's stop wasting time and start rediscovering and presenting Aikido for what it is. A practice meant to help each individual become better and to reconcile the world. How to do this? We'll have to rediscover again together. But we start with asking this question, and not trying to prove something or trying to win against others. Do you agree with this message? What do you think Aikido should change in order to make a difference? How do you think it should adapt to these days? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to know when the next video will come out. This is Sensei Rokas, and see you on the virtual mat again soon.